We'll start in about 2 minutes, and we'll do a brief Q&A after. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thank you for gathering. Today we are announcing the unsealing of an indictment that seeks to dismantle a massive multinational criminal enterprise that operated dozens of fake online pharmacies that sold millions of fentanyl and methamphetamine pills, disguised as legitimate prescription medications. These fake pills were sold to tens of thousands of Americans in all 50 states across this country. The websites the defendants made and the pills they distributed looked very real, but they were not. The websites were allegedly intended to lull victims into believing they were receiving prescription medications with guarantees of quality and legitimacy. And the pills were allegedly made to look like prescription oxycodone and Adderall, down to the color, shape, size, and markings of commercially manufactured prescription pills. But the websites were filled with lies, and the pills were filled with poison. Instead of receiving medication, the victims of the defendant's scheme allegedly received illegal drugs manufactured in industrial-scale pill mills in Manhattan and the Bronx. Mills set up to pump out fake pill after fake pill, night and day. Pills like fentanyl disguised as oxycodone, and methamphetamine disguised as Adderall. We allege that these pills looked like the real deal, and they injured and killed unwitting victims across the country over and over again. Addressing the fentanyl epidemic has been one of my top priorities as U.S. Attorney. And with the indictment unsealed today, we are cutting off a major pipeline of fake and deadly prescription pills sold online. We're prosecuting those responsible and seizing the websites used to commit these crimes. But this indictment and today's announcement should also serve as an urgent warning to individuals who, for whatever reason, are seeking prescription medication online. No matter how good the website looks, no matter how convincing the individuals selling the pills are, no matter how legitimate the pills appear, any single pill ordered online and without a prescription could kill. And if anyone had any doubt about that, just consider the facts of this case. At least 9 victims who purchased counterfeit pills from the defendants are alleged to have died from narcotics poisoning. Those deaths included a U.S. Army National Guard veteran named Holly Holderbaum. She was 45 years old when she died. She is referred to as Victim 1 in our indictment. Although Holly had struggled with drug addiction following her military service, she had not used drugs for the last several years. Recently, however, Holly sustained an injury that led her to place a single order for oxycodone through a legitimate-looking website operated by the defendants. When her pills arrived in the mail, Holly searched on the internet for photographs of real oxycodone pills. She was trying to make sure the pills that she received were legitimate and safe. But how a pill looks doesn't tell you what's inside. Within days, her mother found her unresponsive in bed, dead from acute fentanyl intoxication. Now, Holly was not the only victim here. As alleged in the indictment, Americans from all walks of life ordered counterfeit pills from the defendants. The victims allegedly ranged in age from approximately 23 years old to 77 years old. And they include veterans, doctors, lawyers, first responders, musicians, artists, politicians, teachers, dancers, and more. Some victims had allegedly legitimate prescriptions, but could not obtain their medications through brick and mortar pharmacies due to nationwide shortages. Others were in chronic pain from serious injuries, including those sustained in the line of duty, and sought out prescription painkillers to manage their pain. We allege that the defendants sold fake pills containing poison to tens of thousands of Americans. And let me say a little bit more about the defendants we've charged and the conduct alleged in the indictment. The lead defendant is a man named Francisco Alberto Lopez Reyes. He's been charged with, among other things, being the principal administrator, organizer, and leader of a continuing criminal enterprise that distributed staggering amounts of fentanyl, fentanyl analog, and methamphetamine. This charge, if he is convicted, carries a sentence of mandatory life imprisonment for Lopez Reyes. And because we allege that Holly Holderbaum died as a result of the pill scheme led by Lopez Reyes, he and 17 other individuals in the Dominican Republic, India, and the United States have been charged with participating in a narcotics trafficking conspiracy resulting in death. As alleged in the indictment, the extensive mail-order narcotics scheme that these defendants perpetrated had 3 main components. First, they are alleged to have used over 40 different sophisticated, legitimate-looking websites, falsely claiming to be US-based and FDA-approved, with extensive safety and side effect information about the purported prescription pills being sold, numerous customer reviews, live chatbots, and photographs of genuine pills copied directly from materials published by the DEA. Second, the defendants allegedly manufactured the poison pills at rates of up to 100,000 pills every 12 hours in at least 3 different pill mills located in Manhattan and the Bronx. These pill mills were in basements of residential buildings where day and night the defendants pressed powdered narcotics into pill form at industrial scale. We see some of those narcotics during this investigation, including 625,000 counterfeit pills. And third, the defendants are alleged to have shipped their pills in bulk to customers across the country by U.S. mail, and 9 customers subsequently died from narcotics poisonings. But as we allege, even after customers had received their orders, the defendants were not done preying on those who survived. The defendants and their co-conspirators allegedly used harassing and manipulative marketing tactics, such as free samples of fentanyl pills, discounts, and near daily harassment by phone calls and text messages to pressure customers to place more orders online. When customers tried to block these numbers, they were bombarded by dozens of new numbers, all trying to sell them more fake and deadly pills. If we look over at this board over here, this is effectively the visual depiction of the scheme. When people went online, they would see these fake online pharmacies with all the indicia of legitimacy. They place an order, and the pills would be created here in pill mills in the New York City area, both in Manhattan and the Bronx. You see some of the pills that were seized. and then they're shipped in bulk to victims. And when the victims actually receive the pills, as we mentioned before, 9 people died as a result of the scheme. But then they were pressured, those who survived, into buying more fake pills. And around it went. Today, we are bringing justice to the victims of the scheme, and we will continue to bring justice and the full resources of this office to bear on the fentanyl epidemic. We will stop at nothing to identify those who are flooding our communities with this poison. And we also seek to warn those would-be victims across the country and around the world that phony pharmacies and counterfeit pills are a deadly threat, and ordering drugs from unknown sources can have fatal consequences. Now, today's charges against these 18 defendants are a product of a tremendous law enforcement effort and partnership. And I want to thank in particular our partners at DEA, Homeland Security Investigations, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. They are all outstanding partners on this and so many other investigations that my office is involved in. I also want to commend the career prosecutors from SDNY who were handling this case. Maggie Lanaugh, Adam Solati, Chelsea Sissom, Catherine Cheng, Camille Fletcher, and Lisa Daniels, and their supervisors, Matthew Hellman and Kyle Wershba, from the Office's Narcotics Unit. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium over to my friend and partner from the DEA, Administrator Ann Milgram.
Good afternoon, and thank you, U.S. Attorney Williams. Today, we announce charges against 18 individuals that operated a vast international criminal network that pressed poisonous pills made with fentanyl and methamphetamine here in New York City, and then sold them across all 50 states using fake online pharmacies that the defendants had created. The defendants, operating in New York, the Dominican Republic, and India, wove a vast web of deceit. Deceit in mass-producing counterfeit pills made of fentanyl and methamphetamine that look identical to real medicines like oxycodone, hydrocodone, Xanax, and Adderall. Deceit in creating fake pharmacy websites to look like legitimate online pharmacies, complete with the things that make online websites look real, like 24-hour customer service, like safety warnings, and like false claims here of FDA approval. This double deception turned deadly for 9 people. One victim was a 45-year-old veteran of the U.S. military who believed that she was buying oxycodone from an online pharmacy, and instead she received counterfeit pills made from fentanyl, not oxycodone. 5 days after receiving the pills, she died from fentanyl poisoning. All of this deceit was done to entice Americans who were seeking prescription medicines, all so that this criminal network could make money. At DEA, our mission is to save American lives by defeating the criminal networks across the world and in the United States that are hurting and killing Americans with fentanyl, the most addictive and deadly drug threat that we have ever faced as a nation. Fentanyl is cheap, it is easy to make, and even tiny amounts can be highly addictive and deadly. This criminal network made counterfeit pills with fentanyl in order to drive addiction and to get repeat customers. They wanted people who would come back again and again to buy more pills. For this global criminal network, more pills sold meant more money made. This criminal network trafficked in deceit and devastation so that they could profit. And these defendants targeted and exploited Americans who were looking for less expensive medicines, or for the convenience of not leaving home, or for those who did not have a legitimate prescription for the medicines that they sought. And the defendants also exploited Americans who were suffering from substance use disorder and who were looking for prescription meds. Operation Press Your Luck uncovered a coordinated criminal conspiracy that, as alleged in the indictment, operated in all 50 U.S. states, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and in the Dominican Republic, India, Germany, and Slovenia. These defendants deceived unsuspecting customers into buying what they thought were legitimate prescription medicines by creating and advertising the poison pills on websites that looked like real pharmacies, some purporting to be located in the United States. Unfortunately, the pills that they sold, like the pharmacies, were fake. These defendants went to great lengths to make the pharmacy websites look legitimate. They offered 24-hour customer service. They posted online reviews and safety facts, and they offered deep discounts to deceive customers into believing that they were buying from a reputable business. Fake online pharmacies allow drug traffickers to reach a much bigger market. In 2023, following the COVID pandemic, more than half of all Americans reported having used an online pharmacy. The National Association of Boards of Pharmacy has said that 95% of online pharmacies do not currently comply with U.S. laws and regulations. And so it is critical for us to alert Americans today to the fact that what appears to be a legitimate online pharmacy business that is marketing and selling prescription medicines may in fact be peddling poisonous, potentially deadly pills. In 2021, DEA, we operate 9 labs across the United States, and we found that of all the pills that we had seized that were imprinted with pharmaceutical markings, in other words, that the fake pills that look like they were real prescription medicines, 99.7% did not contain real medicine. These deadly pills are not just pressed in Mexico. Increasingly, more of the counterfeit pills made with fentanyl are using fentanyl powder that has been manufactured in Mexico and then is being pressed into pills in the United States, including, as we saw here, in New York City. Some of these deadly manufacturing sites are located in residences and can churn out thousands of pills per hour. The three pill mills taken out of business in this case could have easily produced 75 to 110 million methamphetamine and fentanyl pills in a single year. I'll say that again. The 3 pill mills that have been taken out of operation as part of this investigation were easily capable of making between 75 and 110 million fake fentanyl and methamphetamine pills in 1 year. In 2023 and before, the DEA lab tested all of the fake fentanyl pills that we seized, and we found that 7 out of 10 of those fake pills had a potentially deadly dose. This is why every single seizure in this case, the seizure of the pill presses as well as the seizure of the pills, potentially saves lives. This global drug trafficking network took every opportunity they could to profit. Their pills have reached across all 50 United States, Puerto Rico, and even internationally to countries like Germany and Slovenia. The victims here are veterans, doctors, teachers, first responders, everyday people trying to manage health conditions or chronic pain. Today, at DEA, we are expanding on the public safety alert that we issued in 2021. In 2021, we alerted Americans that deadly fentanyl was being used to make counterfeit pills that look identical to real medicines like oxycodone. We warned Americans that one pill can kill and said not to take any pill that was not prescribed to them personally and filled by their pharmacy. With today's global criminal network takedown, we see a further evolution of this criminal threat to include mass marketing to potential consumers through the creation of illegal, fake online pharmacies selling the counterfeit pills. The DEA will continue to work across the entire global fentanyl supply chain to save lives. From China, where pill presses and dyes and molds and chemicals are purchased, to Mexico, where fentanyl is produced. And when the fentanyl is pressed into counterfeit pills made to look like real medicine in the United States, we will be there to stop the criminal networks and to prevent more needless deaths. To the American public, We urge you to be vigilant when purchasing medications online. If a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is. Please ensure that you are filling your prescriptions at pharmacies that you know and trust. Be on the lookout for red flags, such as no prescription being required, purchases through encrypted applications like WhatsApp, or payment requests via money transfer programs like Zelle, Cash App, or cryptocurrency. Any American using an online pharmacy should check the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy, and I have a placard here showing what their website looks like. You can check their website in order to see if a pharmacy is legitimate. The FDA also offers guidance on their website to help keep you safe when you're buying medicines online. And anyone who has purchased alleged medicines from the websites that we are taking down as part of this investigation should immediately throw out any purchases that they have made. A list of these websites will be available on DEA's website at dea.gov. DEA urges all Americans to be vigilant and to know that you cannot just look at a pill and know whether it is real. And you cannot figure out if a website sells real medicine based on how the website looks. DEA will continue to work to stop this threat from happening to Americans. We are committed to serialization of every pill press in the United States and to creating a public database of registered and legitimate online pharmacies. In closing, I want to thank our tremendous partners and my friend, Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, the entire trial team here, and I want to really deeply thank the men and women of the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA's New York Field Division, our Special Operations Division, our country offices in India and the Dominican Republic. I also want to thank our federal, state, and local partners, and in particular, Postal Service and HSI. And thank you again to our incredible partners with the Southern District of New York. Together, we will continue to combat these global criminal organizations and save American lives. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and provide a few brief remarks today. My name is William Walker, and I'm the Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI, for the New York Field Office. Today, we recall the lives lost to the fentanyl crisis, ripped away from loved ones as a result of a scourge that knows no bounds. We stand with the grieving families who have shared unimaginable moments of heartbreak and grief reminiscent of everybody's worst nightmare. And today we remember it's the duty of everyone in law enforcement to leave no stone unturned, to use every tool at our disposal so that we can root out those who deal death in our neighborhoods. HSI's ability to identify, investigate, and ultimately dismantle fentanyl networks is often the result of a task force method, which allows us to multiply our efforts through the combined skills, resources, technology, and manpower of our federal, state, and local partners, all under one roof. Perhaps the most poignant example is HSI's El Dorado Task Force, which boasts decades of life-saving successes and is regarded as a premier money laundering task force in the country. This year alone, the task force's investigation into pill mills throughout the Bronx yielded the seizure of pill presses, 100 pounds of fentanyl, 255 pounds of parafluorofentanyl, and 215 pounds of methamphetamine. This investigation, named Operation High Capacity, was led by HSI New York's El Dorado Task Force, with our partners on the task force from the DEA, the NYPD, New York State Police, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. We seized the fentanyl in this case from illicit clandestine labs operating in residences here in the city and from postal facilities where day-to-day mail is processed. The El Dorado Task Force also identified subject of investigations in India, the Dominican Republic, and elsewhere throughout the world, and they will now face the full weight of the U.S. justice system. We are also proud to showcase the results of a second task force investigation here today, led by HSI New York's Border Enforcement Security Task Force, or BEST. Working with our partner agencies, again, the NYPD and DEA, Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, New York State Police, and the New York Waterfront Commission, as well as our HSI counterparts in Santo Domingo, Memphis, Tennessee, and other places around the country, we made significant arrests as part of a multi-year investigation titled Operation Fentex. Investigators so far on that case have seized yet more commercial pill presses, 3 firearms, and 125 kilograms of counterfeit pills and powders laced with fentanyl and other narcotics. HSI is also a proud member of the Department of Justice's OCDETF strike force here in New York, and I'm proud of the significant role which HSI played in the investigation into a network of reshippers that exploited trade agreements to evade suspicion and inspection at the border. Co-conspirators in this case allegedly imported drugs, counterfeit substances, including amphetamine and fentanyl, into the United States and attempted to conceal their illicit proceeds through the use of cryptocurrency. And HSI New York worked closely with our partners by leveraging trade data to bring these defendants to justice. Make no mistake, HSI is on the front lines of the fentanyl epidemic, doing everything in our power to prevent another dose of this deadly narcotic from reaching just one more victim. I thank all of our law enforcement partners for their ongoing collaboration. I commend the hard work of the agents, the analysts, the task force officers, and the prosecutors here in the Southern District of New York and beyond for their diligence and commitment. I hope that today's announcement brings some level of solace to the grieving families who were forced to say goodbye to their loved ones all too soon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and again, welcome. My name is Daniel Brubaker, and I'm the Postal Inspector in charge of the New York Division. I'd like to personally thank U.S. Attorney Damian Williams and his federal prosecutors for their tireless dedication in protecting the citizens of New York and for their partnership with the Postal Inspection Service. As the nation's oldest federal law enforcement agency, the Postal Inspection Service has a long, proud, and successful history of fighting criminals who misuse our nation's postal system, causing harm to both employees and the American public. This is our mission, and this is our sworn duty. Postal inspectors, as well as our partners here today, have an undaunted belief that we should all live in a safe and drug-free environment. This case, like those we have investigated in the past, shows the lengths and tactics that drug trafficking organizations will use to distribute illegal narcotics. This massive network of individuals are alleged to have marketed and operated multiple unregulated online pharmacies, as well as manufacturing and mailing counterfeit illegal narcotics. And these narcotics were disguised as legitimate prescription medicines. These pills actually contained fentanyl and methamphetamine and were shipped to tens of thousands of unsuspecting victims all over the world, with at least 9 of these victims dying from narcotics poisoning. The defendants are also alleged to have used the U.S. mail to send unsolicited free samples of counterfeit pills to victims, pressuring them by phone and other means to order more and more and more and more. Their sole intent was to first get the product into victims' hands and then to get them addicted by any means necessary. I want to also take this time to acknowledge the immense pain and suffering felt by the victims and their families at the hands of this criminal organization. It's distressing to know there are criminals out there who take advantage of those dealing with legitimate ailments. They specifically target them without remorse or regard for human life. It's amazing to me how callous these people can be. We want the public to know this will never be tolerated. The Postal Service has no interest in being the unwitting accomplice to anyone using the U.S. mail to distribute illegal drugs or drug paraphernalia. Winning the battle against fentanyl and all illicit drugs is a top priority for the Postal Inspection Service. Our objectives are to rid the mail of illicit drug trafficking and the violence associated with it, preserve the integrity of the U.S. mail, and most importantly, provide a safe environment for the American public. This case represents the commitment amongst various federal, state, and local agencies to eliminate dangerous narcotics, both domestically and internationally. But we can still use your help. Even with enforcement and high-tech detection systems, information coming from the general public remains a valuable tool for us in fighting against drug trafficking. If you are aware of the mailing of illegal narcotics, let us know. Give us a call at 877-876-2455 or go to our website at uspis.gov. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a few questions.
Aaron Katersky, ABC.
Thanks. Damien, how many of these folks are in custody?
Out of the 18 that we have charged, there are 13 that are currently in custody.
And the ones that are at large, where are they?
I'm not going to be able to speak to the location of every single one. We are actively pursuing those that we can pursue.
Kara Scannell, CNN.
Thanks, Damien. Can you put it in perspective? You said that they had 40 websites and that this was a major center. Can you put in perspective how many others there might be out there and just how it fits into the whole supply chain of this fentanyl crisis?
So I will answer briefly, and then see if the DEA administrator wants to follow up as well. Look, there are multiple sources of supply. We are trying our absolute best to address as many of them as we can. As you followed the work that this office has done with our law enforcement partners, we have charged Chinese chemical companies and individuals abroad for manufacturing some of the precursor chemicals, some of the cartel leaders in Mexico, and some of the people who have been selling on our streets. But there are so many different sources of supply. This one was very troubling, though, and it's very important that we brought this case and shine a light on the network that was able to proliferate these pills. As I mentioned, we see 625,000 pills, and that's just a snapshot from the course of this investigation. As the DA administrator mentioned, these pill mills were capable of producing multiples of that amount. I'll pass it over to her to see if she wants to add anything more on that.
Thank you. So at DEA, we've pivoted to a network approach, meaning that we're targeting every single aspect of the criminal networks. We've done much of that work in partnership with the Southern District of New York, and we have, in the last year, taken action against every single part of that supply chain. Again, the supply chain begins in China most often, where there are precursor chemicals, pill presses, dyes, and molds. The way that those pills are made to look identical is by buying the stamps and the coloring. And again, all of that is required in order to deceive Americans into thinking that these are real pills. So starting in China, generally then going to Mexico, where fentanyl powder and methamphetamine powder are being mass produced. Then that powder is sometimes pressed into pills. The vast majority of pills that we seize in the United States, we still believe are being pressed in Mexico. Over the last 5 years, with our partners in Customs and Border Patrol, DEA and CBP have seized more than 4,700 pill presses, dyes, molds, and parts. Again, then moving into the United States, where we often see the cartels, the two cartels operating in Mexico, Sinaloa and Jalisco, working with local drug traffickers or drug trafficking wholesalers. Here, what we see is a criminal network, multinational, that is working to press their own pills using fentanyl and meth powder, and then finding a new way to distribute those pills at scale. Again, the goal of these organizations is to make more money, and the way they make more money is by selling pills. And they use fentanyl because it is the most addictive medicine we've ever seen. So the scale that we have seen here, we have not seen before. And that is why we're so focused on issuing an alert around the online pharmacies, because it is letting these criminal networks reach people across the globe in all 50 US states. And again, they've taken enormous steps to try to make the pills look real and to make the websites look real. And they're going for customers who are looking for pain medicine or other pharmaceutical drugs, and they're flipping it to do a cheaper, easily accessible version that they're making themselves here in New York that is basically fentanyl and filler.
Thank you. Matthew Lee in his Inner City Press.
Thanks a lot. You said that 13 of the 18 are in custody. There was this case back in October where I think it was U.S. versus Espinal, where 4 people were indicted for, well, first they were complained, then it was an indictment for a pill mill in the Bronx. I see that 2 of them pled guilty, like just last week, last Tuesday. Are they not responsible for resulting in death, or was that part of their plea, or what's the relationship between the 2 cases, if you can?
I don't have any information. We can follow up with you to get you that, though.
Okay, but are there other, is this related to other, I know there's a big case and then there's a little case. Are they now one case?
We're only announcing this one case with these 18 individuals. The speaking indictment sets forth all the conduct and every individual and the role that they played, so I don't have anything more beyond that.
Jonathan Deans, the NBC.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, Mayor Adams' defense lawyers are seeking dismissal of bribery counts, saying there was nothing wrong with the then borough president from accepting upgrades and other gifts and courtesies. How do you respond to their allegations that your office has overreached? And they also claim that your office inflated the donation figure and matching funds of $10 million when it was just $18,000 and that it was errors by staff. Also, can you address if your office has concerns about Brendan McGuire's involvement in the defense when he was also serving as counsel to City Hall, and is he now a witness in that case? And your office has used SDNY investigators to do the work that is often the work of federal agencies. Can you explain how many investigators work directly for your office? Who are these investigators, the guidelines they operate under, and how, when, and why they are used for investigations like this instead of the agencies like the FBI, HSI, or others who could also be doing that kind of work?
It's a lot of questions. Let me see if I can answer none of them. As for the mayor's counsel and whatever he may have said, I haven't seen those remarks and I have no comment. Anything that we say from here on out will be in our court filings. You mentioned our special agents, the 1811 program. We have a robust program here in the Southern District of New York. We have for a while, but I'm not going to comment on the particulars of the program other than to say that it is a part of our office that we cherish, and we will continue to rely on them in collaboration with all of our federal partners and local partners as well. I'm not going to get into anything about Brendan McGuire or his role in the case, and I'm not sure what else you asked, but again, I'm sure I will not answer it. Next question.
Last question.
Mr. William, Luis Nunez with Telemundo. Back on the case, can you elaborate more on Lopez Reyes? Or is he a U.S. citizen? What was the connection with the Bronx and Manhattan? There were a lab in Dominican Republic, or everything was here? Is he a IT guy, or what was the connection with the people over here in our area?
So all the information is set forth in the speaking indictment. The indictment makes clear that Lopez Reyes was the leader, the organizer of this continuing criminal enterprise. He's based in the Dominican Republic. He's currently in custody, and that he was someone who was doing everything from giving orders to subordinates to helping customers fill their orders. And there's some specific allegations that show just how hands-on of a manager we allege that he was. So I would refer you to the indictment. It gives you a lot of information, but he was much, much more than the IT guy. He really was the person who we allege was the boss. Okay, thank you, everyone.